area, unless they're really long hitters, and then they can clear it. But his thought was to make that a little longer hole for the better ladies, and we've never got that accomplished. But you know, overall, I'm glad I don't have to play some of the new tees. I
7,000
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
I've often wondered when you brought this committee together and kind of, developed a plan and wanted to, recognize the heritage of the Tillinghast design here. Was the original design readily accessible at that point, or did people have to go searching for it, or?
Yeah, it was readily accessible. Between Chuck Lott, Ken Stouffer, and I'm not sure who else specifically, but they were they had a lot of information. But there is a drawing, one big drawing, that has the layout of the course. And to be frank, you can pick out about everything you need to pick out on that layout. It's not something that necessarily you could design or you could build from, but you could design hole by hole from that concept, and tweak it a little here or there. I mean, you remember there used to be a wall in 16, and that whole slide, there's a structural problem with that whole green. And that wasn't recognized by anybody. That's one of those things that kind of snuck up on all of us, even after the design change, that all of a sudden this thing hydraulically was moving. And
Number 8, where it was short, it wasn't as long, it was a little dog leg to the right originally. And then
yes. See, and those were changes that they were making piecemeal. I mean, you know the story of new 12, old 12.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a president of the club, Singler, goes down to Florida, likes the Florida courses and hated old 12. So he came back and said, we're going to build a new 12. And that's what we didn't want to have happen all the time, because new 12 doesn't fit with Tillinghast at all. And
it comes in handy when we shut up all the
oh
whole.
yeah, it's great to have a 19-hole course.
Yes. And
there are some. I know Sharon built an extra hole just for the 19th hole. Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
It's number 11. It's off to the left.
Valley?
Yeah, you go down the valley, and there's another hole now over toward the road on the left that they can use as a alternate hole if they have to take one out. So people have done that where they've had the chance. But
Well, the creativity of you chairing that program over a period of a year plus, with meetings, discussions, keeping the board, was a yeoman job, because I don't think there is any one single project in all the years since 21 that ever improved this golf course and stepped it up to the next level that all people were in agreement with and in your direction. And it really, I tell you this on this recording to say that it is my feeling that it is the number one item that's ever occurred in this club.
well, thank you. I'd have to say it probably was a 2-year effort, but it was time, and as you know, not everybody always agrees, but it was time that somebody thought about the golf course in total and not a patch.
Yeah.
And you had some new blood. You keep in mind we had some new blood in the club. Waitro had been here for a while, but Noel. I mean, you had new guys who were on staff were seeing things that they couldn't necessarily object to, but they certainly didn't feel it was in the best long-term interest of the club, and we're happy to work with trying to make something else happen. So I think when Stephen Kay came in here, he was really welcomed by Noel and Waitrose as being an asset for their own positions. And I think it's, you know, it's nice when you get staff on the same side. But I think the membership felt it was time. And when you met the salesman, part of Stephen Kay, I mean, he just swept them along. And it wasn't that he wasn't a snake oil salesman. I mean, he had a real understanding of, I used to love how every time he designed something, he always had his little ruler. He wanted to know where 250 was, where each class of golfer, where their shot was going to leave them, their tee shot was going to leave them. So he very concerned about the 18 handicapper, the 6 handicapper, the female golfer. And he had a place where he knew he wanted their shots to land. So that they could play the hole that fit their game. And I have to go back to, there's some people who really understand that, and Waitrose really understands that. I mean, I'm a member of the old guys group, play golf, and we always play from blue tees. And Tom had been trying to encourage the older guys to enjoy the game more. You guys are playing from the blue tees, and anybody can get on any of these greens in 2. So you're all playing the par 4s, all as par 5s. That take all the fun out of the game. Go get some chances. And he wouldn't do it. And he begged, and finally he said, "I'll give you an incentive. I'll set up a prize. We're going to have a white tee day, and then you guys tell me what you think about it." Well, we didn't need a prize. We played the white tees, and everybody said, "Yeah, it was more fun." We scored better. Sure, it was an easier course, but we all didn't need punishment. I mean, we needed enjoyment. We don't know how. None of us are golfers anymore. It just we're just out here for the fun of it. And Tom really did a good job of slowly encouraging us to get to the right place, and he got us there. And I think we're all grateful for it. Yeah, very true.
Thinking back to the changes that were made to the course, and some were major and some were more subtle. The great hazard on number 6, the rerouting on 15. But were there any other controversial points of that plan, like number 4, where we kind of rearranged the dog leg? Anything else jump to your mind that were sticking points back then, or?
Trees. All relates to trees. All of us like Lakewood, and it's trees. So when you lose the big elms and all that, that was a traumatic thing. And here came Stephen with the fact that you guys are playing this thing in chutes. And he wanted the course opened up. One, it would create a more enjoyable golf experience, but it also would improve the character of the course and the quality of your grasses, because the trees were taking too much water out of the rough, so the rough was always hard and dark and dry, and your greens and tees were having trouble because too shaded. So he wanted a lot more trees removed. Well, there's some trees you couldn't touch in this course, and he found that out. And there happens to be one on number 8. If you've ever played number 8, and I know you have, Dave, on the left at 100 yards sits this beautiful, lonely tree. And the question is, how does that fit the hole? Because it really, if you hit a very nice tee shot and want to get the very best angle to the green, you put that tree in play for your second shot. So Stephen wanted to move that tree. You guys thought, you guys being all of us, thought it was important to this golf hole, but it actually was a detriment to the way the hole should have been designed. No double hazards. You never have sand traps and trees in the same shot, you know, unless you're in trouble and then you're in the rough and you deserve it. So he succumbed and he said, we will leave that tree. But he did encourage us, and we did take out, and as you know, have taken out, continue to take out a lot of trees that were really not helping the adjacent trees grow and mature. We were growing spike trees instead of open trees. So that I think he's, if there's been controversy, 4 was because of the trees. You know, and 7, I hate to say it, 7 is the same way. You might remember that if you hit a good drive on 7, but you're in the right half of the fairway, you had no shot. So your fairway was half width. Well, you know, that isn't how he'd wanted to design that hole, because think of the high handicapper, think of the women. They can't punch that ball way out to the left. They can't get it out that far. You're giving them a par 5. It isn't a par 5 hole. It's a very short hole, but you got to have that long drive. So so he was able to sell those kind of concepts to us. That, as you know, when this course was originally laid out, it was a farmer's field. There are very few trees here. All you have to do is go look at an old photograph, and it doesn't matter how old it was. It's 20 years later, there still weren't any trees. We planted all these trees. Well, when you plant trees, just like planting shrubs in your house, after 10 years, Christ, they're on top of each other. Well, that's what happened over 30, 40 years here at Lakewood. And Stephen was very instrumental in trying to get us to clean up the tree situation. And so we did. One of the things Mike Manco Sr. did was, when I was on the Greens Committee years ago, he was always concerned about that tree in 14. And you might not remember, but we planted 3 trees over in the area of where the tree was in 14, because everybody knew that that tree wasn't going to live forever. I mean, we never realized how bad a shape it was in until it came down, but that didn't last too long. People didn't like those little trees there. But that wasn't a Stephen K. involvement. Those came out earlier. But people were starting to understand that it was too tunnely. If you remember 9, the T and 9, you really had a shoot there. And those trees were getting bigger. But Chuck was a guy who liked to plant trees. And we've all heard, stay out of my golf course. You guys play it, I'll keep it for you. But eventually, you know, people started to realize that we didn't really need all these trees. It didn't mean we didn't want any trees. But we have healthier grass now. We have healthier trees. And as time goes on, it'll continue to improve. Everybody gets a shock when we take down trees. But Jim Noel's actually been on a plan, and with Stephen K., but longer term, on the management of the trees. And I think the boards have given him good support on that area. I mean, the big issue facing the board right now, golf course wise, is probably irrigation. It's a very tough issue to handle in a flat terrain. You know, if you want to build a pond, you can only build it deep, because there is no terrain to drain into it. So you have to build a hell of a hole. Well, if you build a hell of a hole, what are you going to do with all the material? Or if you build a lake that's higher, then you have to pump it in from somewhere. Well, where are you going to pump it in from? I mean, we have a lake out here now that's very prohibitive to pump in water, especially if you're buying it from a municipality like Cleveland. So Irrigation for flat land like this and the way water keeps getting intercepted. Every time a developer comes through, there's an adjustment to our water course. I only have to tell you about the lake on 12. When Crocker Park and all that was developed, there's no more water that flows into that lake. You know, those drainage courses have been cut off. Not on purpose, just the way things go. People change the terrain in that water course, and the water now goes into a sewer instead of coming out across the land. So that, you know, Jim Noel's well aware of that, and we look at that lake and say, gee, it's always got scum on it and stuff, and they must be throwing the grass on the lake, and oh, I've heard it all. No, there's no water going through there, so it's very difficult. You know, on a rainy day, sure, there's water coming across if it's just running off the golf course, but the water course is cut off. So this area, as it continues to develop, and it's, you know, let's hopefully say it's about done, but we'd probably cut ourselves off from a lot of source of water. But when you do that, you also cut yourself off